Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Seam Out for Life here with another PGA Tour 2K23 video. First off, as always, shout out to HP and 2K for giving me access to an early preview build of the game that's out October 14th. On today's video, we're actually going to be diving deep into the MyPlayer side of things. There is a lot to unpack here, so it's going to be a nice, fun video. It's going to be really long. A couple quick things here before we get going, though. It is an early preview version of this game, so of course there are chances that things might change as we're still about a month or so away from release. And the other more important part was I had a very limited time window to play this game. So this by no means is some long, deep dive, comprehensive, full maxed out build of, a golfer or clubs or anything like that. This is more of just an overview of what is in here and just some quick takes on what I learned just in my limited time with it. So the big key here with the MyPlayer is there's basically three main components. There's the archetypes, there's the club fitting / ball sleeves, and finally the skills. So let's dive on in. All right, the first stop here on this MyPlayer tour is going to be on archetypes. So archetypes is essentially your baseline starting stats for your MyPlayer build. G-Dog has actually referred to these as classes, and I think that is a really brilliant way to describe them. There are 5 archetypes, and each one has their own strengths and weaknesses. Also, as a nice bonus, you can change these at any time, and it doesn't cost any virtual currency. So before we dive into the archetypes, let's actually take a look at what these 7 stats are here on the right. So we have power. That determines the max carry distance and default spin of each shot, excluding putts. Timing determines the size of your tempo windows. Swing path determines the size of your forgiveness windows for your swing plane. Transition determines the size of your window to hit the desired power. Shaping is the amount of draw, fade, and spin that you can apply to your shots. The lie range determines how wide the percentage window is for lies when you get into the rough, light rough, etc. The higher that number is, the smaller the percentage of the window. The putt path determines the size of forgiveness for your swing plane on putts, and then putt weight determines the size of the window to hit the desired power on putts. So there are the 7 stats. Now let's dive into the 5 archetypes. The first one here on the list is going to be your greensman. So the strength of the greensman is going to be putting, and the weakness is going to be recovery shots. So they're very, very good on the green, but they're really poor at shaping shots, spinning shots, and they have a very large lie window when they get out in the rough. Next is going to be your powerhouse archetype. The strength here is going to be carry distance, and the weakness is going to be swing difficulty. So they hit the ball a ton, but it's much harder to execute the swing as they have much smaller timing windows, smaller swing plane windows, and that includes all swings, including putts. Next is going to be your rhythm archetype. The strength here is going to be swing difficulty, and the weakness is going to be carry distance. So essentially, they're the opposite of the powerhouse. They don't hit it very far, but it's much easier to execute both tempo and swing plane on all shots. Next is going to be your sculptor archetype. The sculptor's strength is shot shaping, and the weakness is distance control. So they're extremely good at hitting draws and fades and adding spin, but they have a really hard time hitting 100% of the desired power. And then finally, you have woodsman. The woodsman archetype's strength is recovery shots, and the weakness is putting. So they're very, very good out in the rough and just getting out of trouble, as they have much shorter windows in terms of percentage windows when they do get into the rough, but they have a really hard time hitting putts straight and hitting them to the desired length. So there you go. Those are the 5 archetypes. Now, being able to switch between these on the fly, I think, is really great for experimentation. And it's easy to find your fits and kind of just see what fits your game best. I think a lot of people will go straight to powerhouse, as carry distance is typically king in all of these golf games, but I do think rhythm or sculptor could be a dark horse, especially with the timing windows and spin control on those archetypes. So I played mostly with greensman in the preview build, and I really loved it. The putting was tough to get used to, so having the boost there on the green was extremely helpful for where I was at as a player. I know a lot of the other next makers actually experimented with this much more than I did, and they came away actually really impressed with just how different these felt. So I think that is really encouraging for having multiple viable builds. All right, let's head on over to the club fittings and golf ball sleeves. All right, so this is the new club stats system. So what's nice is gone are the days of everyone using the same Bridgestone driver because it hits the farthest. You can now change the appearance of any club without impacting the stats. You just simply buy the skin of the club in the pro shop and you can go ahead and apply it across all your clubs or to that specific club. All the stats are actually impacted by what are called club fittings. Each club type has 3 different club fittings: head, shaft, and grip. So again, the club types are driver, wood, hybrid, iron, wedge, and putter. And remember, the base stats of all of this are actually determined by the current archetype that you have selected. So what you're seeing here in the video, I have greensman selected. So that's gonna be my baseline, and any fittings that I add to these clubs are gonna add or subtract from those stats. Now, the club fittings are actually earned through just simply playing rounds, leveling up, or beating rival and sponsor rewards within the career mode. And I'm sure there's many other ways that we haven't even seen, as we didn't have access to the multiplayer. But once you've earned a club fitting, it is yours to keep. However, anytime you go to add a fitting to a club, it does cost VC, and that is per club. And the amount of VC cost is actually determined by the rarity of that club fitting. Now here is the rarity breakdown. Common is gray, uncommon is green, rare is blue, epic is purple, and legendary is orange. One nice thing too is you can actually get duplicates of these different fittings. So if you get a duplicate, you can actually deconstruct it and get extra VC back. So right here, we're actually applying to all of the irons that are in my bag, although the 3 and the 4 iron are not in my bag. Do you notice that? So you have to be a little careful there because you can apply them across multiple clubs, but it actually gives you access to all clubs, even ones that you're not currently using, but you do get charged for those if you select them. So just be aware of that. Probably only best to spend the VC on the clubs that you have within the bag until maybe much later on when we have a lot more VC to play with. So right here, we're looking at the heads for my wedges. You can see kind of the differences there. I think what's great from so far from what I've seen from the fittings is it feels like very much kind of a plus and negative effect to the 7 stats, right? The fittings will have positives in certain areas and negatives in other areas. So I'm actually applying this grip here to my 3 wedges that are all in my bag, and it costs me the 600 virtual currency. And finally here, putters. So this is awesome because this is brand new to PGA Tour 2K23. They actually have fittings and stat boosts for putters. You can also hit triangle or Y on the Xbox controller to see more of a list view of this, and I think this is super helpful. So you can see everything at a high level overview, the clubs you have, the fittings that are currently applied. On the left, you're gonna have the heads, the middle is gonna be the shaft, and then the right is gonna be your grip. And you can kind of see at a glance what is there, what isn't, and also the rarity. There we go. Let's jump to the ball sleeves. So golf balls work just like the clubs do, and they have their own stats. The appearance has absolutely no impact on the stats, and simply just a skin that you can apply to it just like the clubs. Now, the type of ball that you pick does impact the stats, and there are now 4 stats for the golf balls: spin, flight, bounce, and roll. Now, the higher the spin rating, the more it spins. The higher the flight rating, the more carry distance it has. The higher the bounce rating, the less it bounces, and the higher the roll rating, the less it rolls out. Now, ball sleeves also follow the same rarity categories that the club fittings do. And again, the rarities are common gray, uncommon green, rare blue, epic purple, legendary orange. There's 4 of each type to choose from, and they typically focus on boosting one of the 4 stats and nerfing the other 3. Now, you do have a default sleeve of balls that are infinite, and they are pretty balanced, so you'll always have a ball to play with. However, all other sleeves of balls are consumable and have a finite amount of uses. Now, these sleeves can be earned organically through gameplay or purchased with virtual currency. The rarity determines the cost to refill them. So legendary sleeves cost more to refill than common sleeves. A quick example of the cost for legendary sleeve packs, which are the most expensive: 3 balls is 300 VC, 6 balls is 540 VC, which is a 10% off discount, and 12 balls is 900 VC, which is a 25% discount. So just like going to Costco, the more you buy in bulk, the better the deal. One important note here: no matter what you are doing in this game, if you are using a non-default golf ball, it will consume it. So that means 1 round of golf in the career mode, 1 round of golf in casual mode, or even just jumping into 1 game of Top Golf, it will consume the 1 ball that you have equipped in your sleeve. So I'm not really sure about how that applies to the multiplayer side, as we didn't have access there, but I would imagine that it would probably be the same over there as well, but obviously we'll be able to confirm that once we get hands on the full version. So just keep this in mind, as you probably don't want to waste your high rarity golf balls while playing Top Golf. Now, my final comments on this will be the concern that these consumable golf ball sleeves are pay to win. Now, we have been told adamantly by HB that that is not the case. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and trust that assessment, because while players can purchase VC with real money, and someone could, I guess, in theory, pay their way to having an infinite amount of legendary golf ball sleeves, without having adamant time to play the game, it's really tough for me to say just how frequent you earn ball sleeves organically and how quickly you accumulate VC to refill those sleeves. I think the first couple weeks or even months will be when the VC is at its premium, and we're all going to be constantly spending the VC as we try to build up our characters. However, by month 2 or 3 or beyond that, we may have accumulated so many legendary sleeves or accumulated so much VC that refilling these sleeves is probably going to be an afterthought. So time will tell on that. All right, let's jump to skills. All right, so our last stop here on this MyPlayer tour is going to be on the skills section. Now, I'm just going to be scrolling through each skill about every second or so you'll be able to see all 42 skills here. And obviously you can just feel free to pause it if you really want to take a deep dive. But there are 6 club types: driver, wood, hybrid, iron, wedge, and putter. And each club has 7 skills associated with it. So there are 42 total skills, and each one of these skills has 3 levels. Now you start with 1 skill point to spend, and every level that you gain with your MyPlayer, you get an additional skill point to spend. Now here's what's important. You actually max out at 50 skill points. So there is no possible way to spend everything and max out everything. So you have to kind of pick and choose. Now what's good here though is if you do change your mind, you can just go and clear it all and respec and reallocate your points, and it only costs you 500 VC to be able to do that. Now each skill has a scenario where the boost is received. Like a normal shot with a hybrid gets a spin boost from the fairway. Each skill has a different activation and deactivation parameter as well, based on the level of that skill. So you need to hit 4 fairways in regulation to activate the skill. But if you miss 1 green in regulation, it deactivates that skill. Now, the higher the level the skill, the easier it will be to activate. It'll typically last longer, and it will usually have a larger boost. So the level 3 example of the skill I just gave you would be level 3 activation would be hit 3 fairways instead of 4. And the deactivation would be to miss 2 greens in regulation in a row instead of just simply missing 1. Now each skill funnels into 3 categories: support, momentum, and passive. Support is going to activate when you're struggling, and it's going to deactivate when you're playing well. So a quick example of this would be Trailblazer, which is a driver's skill. This gives you a swing path boost off the tee. It activates when you miss fairways, and it deactivates when you hit fairways. Momentum will activate when you're playing well, and it will deactivate when you're struggling. So an example there would be Perfect Pitch, which is a wedge skill. You get spin boost on pitch shots within 101 yards. This activates by having birdie streaks, and it deactivates by having par or bogey streaks. And then finally, passive will always be active when the scenario is met. So an example here would be Metalhead, which is an iron skill. When you're hitting off the fairway, level 1 gives you a transition boost, level 2 gives you a swing path boost, and level 3 gives you a timing boost. Now, from what I've looked through, it looks like columns 1, 3, and 5 are your support skills, columns 2, 4, and 6 are your momentum skills, and the final column, column 7, is where you're going to find your passive skills. So as you can see at the top, you need to spend a certain amount of points in each column to gain access to the next column. But you don't have to unlock a skill in a row to gain access to the skill down that row. So an example here would be if you wanted the 4th skill in the driver row, you don't have to unlock the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd to get to it. You just have to make sure that you spend 12 total points across all skills, and then that is going to unlock that 4th column. So the point spending strategies here are going to be extremely interesting. I think the passives are a no-brainer, as you're just getting free boosts for those club types on most of your shots in a round. Next, I think most, especially the TGC Tour crowd, are going to lean into the momentum skills because it's more common to be playing well throughout the round, so getting those boosts would be a more frequent occurrence. Then I think it'll be a decision on what support skills you're going to want to go to and find most helpful. I think a lot of this depends on your player's controller skills, like how good am I at the game, and then what archetype you have / what club fittings you have that kind of, work well and synergize well with your build. I also think that spending skill points on the hybrid row can be avoided altogether by just simply removing that club from your bag, and then you can just cover those yardages with a 3-iron or 5-wood, and then you don't have to invest any points there in the hybrid. In fact, I actually wish they would have just left the hybrid off of this and just put hybrids and woods together, because I just don't really see a reason to even have a hybrid in your bag. And this is coming from somebody who actually enjoys using hybrids, but I feel like I'd rather use a 3-iron or a 5-wood and just never spend points there on that hybrid row. All right, there we go. The MyPlayer walkthrough that you guys have all been waiting for. Archetypes, club fittings, ball sleeves, and of course, the skills. There's just so much to unpack there. It's crazy. I don't even think we're going to scratch the surface of it at this point. And we're probably going to be weeks, if not months away from really grasping everything that is available to us in here with the MyPlayer. So I'm really looking forward to kind of that grind, looking forward to that journey of just learning and just seeing what works and the experimentation side of it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now in the comments, let me know what you guys are looking forward to. What do you like? What are you going to be building? What archetype do you think you'll be using? All that good stuff. I would absolutely love to hear from you. And if you do like the content, as always, please like and subscribe, as it does help me immensely and it does help with the channel's algorithm. And again, keep it locked into this channel. We're going to have a ton more PGA Tour 2K23 information and videos as we lead into the launch of the game on October 14th. And we'll definitely be having a lot more videos after launch as well. As always, again, thank you so much for all the support here, both on YouTube and on my Twitch channels. I really appreciate all of you. See you next time. Cheers.